Hi, everyone. Just want to thank you for joining us today. My name is Chris Nielsen. I am the Communications Manager for the New Hampshire Division of Travel and Tourism. And this webinar, Turnkey Strategies for Promoting Responsible Outdoor Recreation, will begin in just a moment. And before I turn it over to today's presenter, Andrew Leary of Leave No Trace, I did want to mention a couple of things. First off, this session is being recorded and will be available on visitnh.gov at a little bit later date. Also, please keep your mic on mute. There will be time for Q&A at the end. So if you have some questions during Andrew's presentation, please type them into the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, and we will certainly get to as many of them as possible. This webinar, Turnkey Strategies for Promoting Responsible Outdoor Recreation, is the first in a series of virtual digital trainings aimed at educating industry partners about New Hampshire's Leave No Trace initiative. Visit New Hampshire, along with an advisory group that's been made up of industry partners from around the state, have been working with Leave No Trace to develop New Hampshire's program. And it's really reflective of the state's commitment to continue to invite people to visit New Hampshire, but to do so in a responsible way. This session we really see as an opportunity to make you aware of various resources that exist and to show you how to use them as you communicate Leave No Trace with your audiences. Now, these resources that you'll see today are the current resources that are available, but the toolkit, like New Hampshire's initiative, will evolve over time. Now, I mentioned Andrew Leary a moment ago. He's the one we've been working very closely with at Leave No Trace. A little bit about Andrew. He's a member of the Leave No Trace education team, and Andrew works closely with travel and tourism professionals on long-term goals and objectives with Leave No Trace destination stewardship. He supports our state in developing messaging and education strategies for our statewide initiative. Andrew brings a perspective from his work in the adventure tourism industry as an expedition ski guide, as well as previous sales experience within the outdoor industry. Andrew has an MS in Parks, Recreation, and Tourism from the University of Utah and a BA in Journalism from the University of Oregon. Now, a fun fact about Andrew, he has walked through every time zone on the globe. And with that, I will turn it over to Andrew.
Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks for that introduction, and welcome to everybody on the webinar. Such a great turnout that we have today to talk about the New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative and really what are turnkey strategies for promoting responsible outdoor recreation in New Hampshire. As Chris said, my name is Andrew Leary. I work for Leave No Trace, the organization that is behind everything you've ever heard around Leave No Trace, at least for the last 27 years. I'm a part of the education team there, and really in the travel and tourism space, I work to find solutions that enable travel, tourism, and the outdoor recreation industry as a whole to help really promote what responsible recreation through Leave No Trace can look like. We know that the outdoors, certainly for New Hampshire, but the US in general, the outdoors is a major product that draws people in from overseas, domestic travel, crossing state lines. And even thinking about New Hampshire, there are people who are traveling from southern to northern and northern to southern and east to west. And so at some point, we're all visitors when we go to a different destination and spend time outdoors. So the New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative is reflective and knows that New Hampshire's outdoor environment is a major draw for all sorts of visitors and guests. But the outdoor environment can experience significant impacts from uninformed outdoor recreation practices. This might be accidentally leaving litter on the trail. This might be renting an ATV or a power motor vehicle that is perhaps too big for the trail or the designated area where we're going to be riding. And those are usually unintentional impacts that occur, but they have a really big cumulative effect. And certainly for the last many decades that people have been spending time in the outdoors, those impacts have been showing up more and more. So really, New Hampshire's Leave No Trace initiative makes all of us, guests, visitors, and New Hampshire residents, a conservation solution when we spend time recreating and leisure activities in New Hampshire's great outdoor spaces. The New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative is based on Leave No Trace's 7 principles, which are the most well-known stewardship education program and messaging across public lands in the US. If you've ever spent time in a national park or perhaps a state park, certainly state parks in New Hampshire share Leave No Trace, and the very practical and actionable ways that individuals can work to minimize their impacts when they spend time outdoors, so that these great outdoor resources can be everlasting and be there for the next person who's going to enjoy the great waterfall or the great vista that we're going to be experiencing. With New Hampshire's Leave No Trace messaging, we have the opportunity to speak to issues and solutions through a New Hampshire voice and the culture of New Hampshire and the tone of the New Hampshire outdoor experience. And really that messaging, all the messaging that you'll see from the New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative wouldn't be possible without the hard work of the advisory group that's made up of New Hampshire residents whose professional and volunteer roles exist in outdoor recreation, travel, tourism, land manager spaces in New Hampshire. So there were a lot of voices that were at the table when all of this great messaging was formed, and those voices will continue to be at the table. Certainly new voices are always going to be welcomed into the New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative. Again, this is meant to reflect the tone and voice and culture of New Hampshire and welcome guests and visitors, and say welcome back to residents who might spend time in the outdoors a little more frequently. Up until recently, the task of informing guests and visitors about responsible recreation practices like Leave No Trace has really fallen on land managers, those who manage federal parks, those who manage state lands. I'll put tribal nations in there as well, who are land managers. And when they welcome guests, they are also taking on the responsibility of imparting, here's how you can recreate or visit responsibly. But as humans, we didn't learn values like respect, responsibility, and caring from just one single source. So why have we approached these same values for the outdoors and conservation solutions for the outdoors in the same way? Why are land managers the only ones who are talking about what responsible travel and responsible recreation can look like when we're thinking about New Hampshire? So what we have now is this opportunity to reach people with this very actionable and practical messaging far beyond just the trailhead when people arrive. We know that impacts, if people can minimize their impacts during the planning phases of their trip or before they arrive to the trailhead, then next to no impacts are going to take place because people are already conscious of what's going on and they can put that into practice. If we just show up to the trailhead unprepared, then there's the likelihood that a lot of impacts are going to take place. And for a lot of people in the outdoors, that is the case. There's a sentiment that new users in the outdoors are creating impacts, that it's a lot of new people in the last couple of years. And it turns out there's research that says that impacts have been going on for a very long time. And it's not just this new segment of people who are spending time in the outdoors. Everybody is unintentionally causing these impacts. The great thing is that we have the opportunity to put actionable practices that are really easy and anybody can do into place when we go into the outdoors that enhance our experience when we go with friends and loved ones and spend time in New Hampshire. And everybody who's here, you as a hospitality professional, as a retailer, as a guide and outfitter, as an NGO, a destination marketing organization, a land manager, city parks and rec, really anybody has the ability to help promote responsible recreation through Leave No Trace to guests, visitors, clients, anybody that you're interacting with. And you're going to overlap with those people who are coming to New Hampshire new for the first time. You're going to overlap with those out-of-state visitors who have spent perhaps a lot of time in New Hampshire. And you're also going to overlap with those New Hampshire residents who you might see day in and day out or call your friends and spend time with when you go outdoors. So there's a tremendous opportunity to reach people through daily interactions in very kind of low touch ways. Doesn't take a lot of effort. You're not going to spend 20 minutes talking to somebody at the cash wrap about why New Hampshire is valuing Leave No Trace, but there are easy ways that are turnkey and make it possible so that you can play a significant role in protecting New Hampshire's outdoor resources. I wanted to bring a little research and statistic into this. My background academically is in this world, and in terms of sustainability, the last couple of years have really shown sustainability to be a growing sentiment that travelers are desiring. The U.S. has been, if you look globally at sustainable travel, the U.S. is one of the last people to come to the party, but we're here now, and that's what's important. So I just wanted to share with you some statistics that are pretty striking from Booking.com. 83% of global travelers think that sustainable travel is vital. And sustainable travel, by the way, means a lot of things. That's a big bucket. But responsible recreation practices like Leave No Trace are linked to sustainable travel, are linked to stewardship. 49% of travelers still believe there aren't enough sustainable travel options across the board. So in this survey, that's talking about options for flying and transportation. It's talking about options for spending time outdoors. It's talking about spending time in communities and how can people be sustainable in visiting communities. 52% admit they get annoyed when somewhere they're staying stops them from being sustainable. This happens more often than you would think. And I definitely had a recent interaction on a plane flight where I was trying to use a reusable water bottle instead of having the flight attendant fill up a plastic cup, which I knew was instantly going to go into the trash about 10 minutes after using it, and they turned me away. They wouldn't let me do it, and that was extremely frustrating. So think about those times you've had, and think about the times your visitors or travelers and other people you've had have engaged with times where it's been kind of frustrating when we can't be doing the sustainable practices that we desire to because of barriers that are built in. The last stat on here, I think, is one of the most striking. So 75% of accommodation providers, so this is specific to hotel, lodging, and all sorts of accommodation providers that fall under that umbrella. 75% of providers have implemented at least some kind of sustainable practice at their property. And that could be saving water, that could be reusing towels, that could be bed service options, like all those things that we've encountered. But only a third actively communicate that to their guests and to their visitors. So the reason I'm sharing all this with you is because there's growing segments of travelers that are putting sustainability front of mind when they think about choosing a destination like New Hampshire. And for everybody here, beyond intrinsic motivations for wanting to promote responsible recreation when spending time in the Granite State, there's also the business case for it as well. Travelers and visitors want sustainable options. They're willing to pay for sustainable options as well. Luckily, Leave No Trace and everything that Visit New Hampshire is doing to promote Leave No Trace across the state is cost-free to everyone who's here, is cost-free to all your visitors and guests. It does not cost money to practice Leave No Trace. It costs a little bit of time to learn about it and put it into practice, but it does not cost money. There are many organizations and businesses that have recognized sustainability as one of their core values. The Appalachian Mountain Club is one of those organizations. Lisa Schott, who's the leadership training manager at AMC, is here with us today and is going to share with you some insights about how partnering with Visit New Hampshire's Leave No Trace initiative helps AMC align with their organizational strategy. Lisa, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you all today. As Andrew mentioned, my name is Lisa Schott. My pronouns are she, her, and I think just the obvious connection for me here for the Appalachian Mountain Club, the AMC, in our mission, we state that we are dedicated to the protection and enjoyment and understanding of the outdoors, and the L&T principles apply to all of those aspects. So sustaining and investing in our state's really iconic natural spaces is, especially amidst greater use and climate amplified damage, all of that relies on a strong foundation of stewardship and outreach. So in short, across our member base, the AMC is supportive of and really excited about New Hampshire's commitment to this partnership and the kind of creative ways that we're getting to work with LNT. For my work specifically, as Andrew mentioned, I'm a leadership training manager, so I help to oversee training in outdoor leadership and wilderness first aid and in Leave No Trace directly for our volunteer leaders and for our staff. So one of the nice perks of my role is that I get to hear from folks across the AMC community. And when I became aware of this opportunity to join the conversation today, I reached out and spoke with a handful of people about what excites them about the Visit New Hampshire and LNT partnership. And I would say, overarching takeaway was largely this idea of the value of having really consistent statewide attention to some of these critical stewardship messages and just sustaining our state's natural resources, especially for through our lens for residents and visitors to the state. So here at the AMC, we offer LMT programming and training and information to our staff, to our volunteers, to our visitors, our program participants, and all of our members, but we are dependent on people already being engaged with us to start receiving that information. So we see this partnership as a real boon to us in helping to reach people before they are already out and active, and just getting that message out more prolifically. So I want to share a couple of anecdotal insights from people around our organization about the opportunities we see shaking out from this partnership. So some of you may know the AMC maintains around 350 miles of trail here in the state of New Hampshire. And the folks in our trails department mentioned something that Andrew touched on earlier, which is that when people plan ahead and are prepared before they go out, they can avoid things like overcrowding at trailheads, which we see a lot of since they're able to go on to plan B when the first trailhead is full. And additionally, learning about LNT helps people minimize their impacts by encouraging behaviors like staying on trails and durable surfaces. And what we are seeing through our teams out there working on the trails is a lot of erosion, loss of vegetation, and just a need for more intensive trail work due to hikers widening and creating their own paths. So those folks were excited and had some great points to shed some light on, as well as our conservation team, who through their research, they're finding evidence of the impacts of a changing climate on our New Hampshire ecosystem. And they mentioned, also in alignment with Andrew's statistics about sustainable travel, that the very travel and tourism industry that are the lifeblood for our state also drive the largest source of greenhouse gases in the state, which is transportation. So marrying our sort of tourism campaign and our forward-facing welcome to New Hampshire information with this mindfulness about environmental impacts is really critical. And the more people who have wilderness ethics in mind as a part of their travel and recreation plans, the better from our point of view. So that was a huge piece, as well as the research team wanted me to throw in some notes also that we know that our fragile alpine ecosystems that we so love and value here in New Hampshire are impacted by climate change, but also overuse. So particularly we think about areas like Franconia Ridge that see huge numbers of visitors, and enlisting the help of the public in spreading out that love to some of the lesser used trails, especially in those sensitive ecosystems, can be a great help. And all of those seem right in line with this, and we're just excited that people have this information in their hands earlier, and then we're even able to get it to them as they come and join us.
Lisa, what does AMC have coming up in the next year around responsible recreation, Leave No Trace, and connection to the New Hampshire State Initiative?
Andrew, thank you for asking. Some of you who snuck in the call early probably know that I was struggling to find a way, because I'm very excited and I want to share with you all this information. We have right off the bat, coming up at the end of October this year, October 20th and 21st, a virtual L&T trainer course that's going to be co-led by AMC staff and some folks from the White Mountain National Forest, actually. So that's exciting, and you should definitely check that out. Help us spread the word. Send people onto our website at outdoors.org to get the details and sign up for that. And then I am currently in the process right now of mapping out our offerings for 2023 in terms of specific L&T trainer courses that people can come and take. And we hope to offer those several times a year all around our operating base. So from the Delaware Water Gap all the way up through northern Maine, including a couple of opportunities here in the state of New Hampshire. We are looking to start pushing some of those further out so that they're not all in the heart of the White Mountains, and we can get some down towards population bases in Concord, Nashua, Manchester area as well. And also, just come on up. We would love for you to come through our facilities. All of our lodges and huts have passive information on L&T, and we have naturalist programming going on all the time. So it's a great way for folks who have now been introduced through this partnership with the state of New Hampshire to get more information and dig in a little bit deeper.
That's really great. Thanks, Lisa. And really thank you to everybody at the Appalachian Mountain Club who's partnering with the New Hampshire Leave No Trace Initiative, and AMC has been partnered with the Leave No Trace organization for quite a long time as well. So big thanks to you and all of your colleagues for everything that you're doing and will continue to do.
Thank you, and we're super excited.
Great. I do want to acknowledge, though, that there might be some people watching this webinar, participating in this webinar, that are like, AMC is doing some really great work, but I, as a hotelier, do not offer trainings and courses and ways for people to get into the outdoors. I offer rooms and lodging for people, and that's my business, and that's my business model. So it's great what AMC is doing, but I am going to have a hard time replicating that. That could be true of outdoor retailers, that could be true of restaurant, and really any hospitality industry. So going into the creation of the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative, that was already thought out well in advance. So one thing that we're super excited to share is what we think are some really turnkey solutions around a partner toolkit. Partner toolkits have become very popular, and this is one way that everybody here can have a part in promoting responsible recreation through Leave No Trace when visiting the state of New Hampshire. This partner toolkit is a combination of digital and print items, and that is also on purpose. So one thing I want to note, because I'm going to unpack this partner toolkit for you over the next for the next few minutes or so, but please use the Q&A function if you're joining us live on the webinar, if you have any questions along the way for anything that you're seeing, and we'll make sure that we have time at the end to go through those. This Turnkey Partner Toolkit is full of resources that you can implement in your digital and physical spaces with no hassle and no guessing, and you can do it right away. So let's just dive right in. I want to show you first where you can find the toolkit. So there is a QR code here for anybody who's watching. If you scan that, it'll take you right to the toolkit, but I do want to show you how you can navigate there as well. So the image that you're seeing is the Visit New Hampshire webpage, and specifically the industry member section of that webpage. So once you go there, you can arrive on the screen, and then you can scroll down until you get to the industry member resources, and you'll see industry resources right there. And then just scroll down just a little bit more, and you'll see Leave No Trace resources in a box. So this is where the toolkit lives. This is where all the items live. If you want to get more information, if you as an organization or business would like to join the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative, all that information that you can find is right here. And again, please feel free to just use that QR code. It'll take you right to this final page that you're seeing. So let's dive into the toolkit. Nearly everybody is a digital first organization. Land managers are one big exception to that. but everybody else is nearly digital first. And what I mean by digital first is that we're no longer relying on print, on people being in physical spaces to engage with us conversationally. We can reach so many more people through digital means, social media, websites, email communications, and a whole lot of others that are kind of nuanced in across those broad categories. So one of the items that's a no-brainer for being in this toolkit are ready-made social media posts that include graphics and text copy that you can take and implement into your digital communication strategy. There are a lot of different options in terms of imagery that you can use or different text options. What you're seeing on the screen now is kind of the general call to action around the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative. But then there's also social media slides that are going to be paired around the specific principles. So in this case, stick to trails, and then the associated texts that are going to go with that. So no brainer, super easy to be able to take what's in the toolkit and hand this off to either your staff or your colleagues who manage social media channels or communications channels, because when they see this, they're going to know exactly what to do with it. So social media posts, lots there and more coming down the line as well. Even though we're digital first, that doesn't mean that print is completely dead. Digital is a great way to reach people before they come to a visit in New Hampshire, whether they're planning 6 months in advance or 6 days in advance or 6 hours in advance. Digital is really great. But print and physical locations are just as important, because when they arrive to the state, if they're going through Manchester before heading up to the Whites, that's an opportunity for them to engage with the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative in person and just get a little touch point so that it can remind them, oh yeah, there's this thing, responsible recreation, leave no trace, and a call to action to be a part of that. So there are print posters. This is what you're seeing on screen are the color version of the print posters. There are also black and white versions of these same print posters. But these are going to be great for putting right next to cash wraps or front desks or the windows or doors that are facing sidewalks. And believe it or not, restrooms are a great place to put this kind of information. People spend a lot of time in restrooms, and those posters, we've all been engaged in one way or another by a flyer, by a poster, something by a mirror, something on the back of a stall door. Those are strategic places to put this kind of thing that can really make a difference. And again, we're just trying to get people to remember this, to be like, oh yeah, there's this thing, I want to learn more, or in preparation for my visit to wherever I'm going outdoors, I should dive in a little bit to understand what this is. There are also digital icons that are available in this toolkit. So these are things that you would use in digital spaces, most likely your website. Perhaps you might use them as a button or a static resource on your website. You might also use these in email communications. Really, any digital communication, you can use these badges and icons here. There are icons for each of the 7 principles. And if you notice on the bottom, there are 2 versions of the idea of stick to trails. One that includes camping, but then the other that just includes trails by themselves. There are a lot of people who spend time in the outdoors that are not necessarily camping, but there are a ton of people who are going to spend time on trails. Website graphics, so a little bit of an integration of really great, compelling visuals along with a great color palette and those digital badges and icons as well. Each of the 7 principles has one of these banners, which are going to be great to use in your website, in your blogs, on your consumer email touch points, on your reservation confirmations. These can be a really great way to bring people into those New Hampshire Leave No Trace 7 principles, which are the actionable and practical ways that everybody can make a difference to recreate responsibly when they spend time in the outdoors in New Hampshire. There are also logos that you can use as well. You've already seen the Proud Partner logo when Lisa was sharing about AMC's being excited about partnering with the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative. So you'll have access to the color partner logo there that you can use in all digital spaces. This is certainly something that could be printed and put onto those same places where you're putting posters. If I'm an outdoor retailer or I have a brick and mortar shop or store where I welcome guests and visitors in, I might put something like this on my front door, on the window, or right next to the cash wrap, to let people know that my business, my organization is really excited to be a part of the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative. And what I can tell you from experience across many other parts of the United States is that this type of thing, when a customer sees it, when a visitor sees it, they're going to ask you and they're going to engage. Oh, what does this mean? They're not just going to see it and let it go. They're going to be curious about this. This is compelling. This is colorful. This is in your face. So there are ways that this is going to invite people to talk about what this is, and you won't have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting to get people into conversations in that way. There's also the, here is the black layup for the Leave No Trace logo and the Visit New Hampshire logo stacked on top of one another. There's also a horizontal version of this as well. So this is really, we refer to this as the initiative logo lockup. And you can use this when you're talking about connection to responsible recreation in New Hampshire, certainly the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative. And these logos are always going to be used together. They're not meant to be used separately, but there's a black version like this. There's also a white version. So if you were putting it against a color background, or something that you can hand off to your marketing team to easily implement into your website or communications, you can just give them the full logo suite and they're going to know what to do with it. I mentioned talking to customers. So it's one thing to have all these great digital and physical resources that we can engage people with on their own time. But meaningful interactions with visitors, with customers is really what is going to carry this over. It's really what's going to leave a lasting imprint on a visitor who might be new to New Hampshire, coming for the first time with their family to go hike in the Whites or to go to another destination around the state. So how do you talk about the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative? We've talked a little bit about it. It's based on the 7 principles. It's a statewide thing. There are multiple organizations that are involved, but you can go deeper. And there are ways to go deeper and know how to talk about it that the toolkit also contains. So there are e-learning courses that are built for industry professionals, specifically hospitality, hotel and lodging, retail, restaurateurs, wineries, breweries, anybody kind of in those spaces that is interacting with travelers, visitors, and guests will benefit from these e-learning courses, these professional development courses. There's also a course that's built around specifically for visitor center staff to be able to talk about this with all the great different visitor centers across the state, across the state. It's about a 30-minute course. And what you're going to walk away with is this really high level comprehension of what Leave No Trace means in New Hampshire. And there's a professional development certificate that comes along with that. Just to give you a glimpse as to what this is, like if I, again, am imagining I'm a shop owner and I have all these great physical spaces where I might want to put some items from the Leave No Trace, from the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace toolkit, but I want a little more guidance around that. That's what this e-learning course is going to help with. So I can go to the e-learning course and I can go through it, and there are all these great different modules, and go to on-site interactions. When I click on on-site interactions, I can take a look and find like, oh, there are recommendations for retail. And then I can click and see, oh, well, that's the reason why the cash wrap is such a valuable place to put these things. Maybe I'm a hotelier, I own a lodge. I can also take a look at kind of a common setting for what a front desk and welcome space and maybe a seating and communal areas look like around my business. Same thing goes for restaurants, breweries, and wineries. So this is just a short glimpse as to what that professional development e-learning course is going to be able to give you. Again, it's 30 minutes. There's no test, there's no quiz involved. And you can revisit this over and over again. This kind of thing is going to be really great for any frontline staff that are interfacing with consumers, with guests. And there's some really kind of actionable things that come out of this around implementation strategies and more turnkey solutions. So definitely check that out. The QR code that's up here will take you again to that partner toolkit webpage. And if you scroll down toward the bottom, the links to the industry courses can be found right there. Definitely encourage you to share this among your staff, among your organization, among your colleagues, because any amount of information that you can learn about this to be able to then talk about with a consumer is really going to make the difference when they're out on the trail, when they're out experiencing New Hampshire's outdoors. So that was a quick glimpse at the toolkit, but you got a great view, I think, of everything that's currently in there. And as Chris mentioned at the beginning of this workshop, that the toolkit is ever evolving. It's not a static resource. And so in time, the Visit New Hampshire actually has plans for, what are the next phases of items that are going to come into the toolkit. That's input that's being given from the advisory group that we talked about before, but also from everybody who's here and from you who are watching this webinar. So if there's a resource that you think will be really compelling that you could use, I bet that other peers in your industry would find it useful as well. So definitely stay in touch with Visit New Hampshire and keep those channels open so that they can create toolkit resources that you can use and no-brainer easily be able to implement into everything that you do. I wanted to touch upon some of those implementation strategies and best practices that we have from Leave No Trace, as well as from Visit New Hampshire and everything that we've been talking about and thinking about with this partner toolkit and beyond. So really get those digital assets from the toolkit into the hands of your staff who manage social channels, website, your communications. I am not a social media savvy person myself, but at Leave No Trace, I have colleagues that are. So when it comes to this kind of thing, I'm going to get that over to them so that they can implement it and get it in right away and get it onto social calendars. You're going to show them that toolkit. You're going to show them all the different options they have, and they're going to be like, oh, this is great. I don't have to sit down and write text copy. I don't have to look for license-free images to be able to use on our social media. I definitely encourage you to talk about the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative and responsible recreation in New Hampshire with your staff. Why is this important? You're here for a reason. You're watching this, you're attending this webinar workshop for a reason. So why is it important to you? And is it important to your organization to be a part of the movement in New Hampshire as well? And if it is, and your staff if you can have those meaningful conversations, document those conversations, take notes, write them down, because that's the kind of thing that you can easily communicate out to your visitors and guests. We looked earlier at those stats from booking.com that talked about how more than 70% of hospitality businesses are involved in some sort of sustainability, but only a third of them actually talk about it with their consumers and guests. So for the business case that responsible recreation and stewardship and sustainability has for visitors and businesses alike that are coming into the state, it's important to share your story. It's an opportunity to connect with visitors and guests, and each person's story, each organization's stories can be completely unique and draw more people in because of that. Definitely consider those physical locations where you can engage with visitors and guests for your storytelling. Again, digital is great because we can reach people well in advance of their travel, or we can reach hundreds or thousands of people potentially with our message before they are a potential visitor or customer of ours. But if you have a physical location, if you have physical spaces where you welcome guests and visitors, how can you put Visit New Hampshire's Leave No Trace messaging into place there in passive ways, in active ways? Again, utilize that toolkit. Check out the professional development courses that'll help you unpack and understand where those physical locations are and what you can do around them. I have a Leave No Trace hot tip for everybody, and that is that you don't have to talk about all 7 principles as an all or nothing package, meaning you don't have to talk about plan ahead and prepare and stick to trails and share the outdoors and all of the 7 principles all together every time, all the time. Often that's too much information for people. That information is great for like living on a website. It lives on Visit New Hampshire's website. It most certainly will probably live on partnering organizations' websites very shortly. Those are great reference points, but it's okay to talk about plan ahead and prepare just by itself. It's okay to talk about disposing of waste properly or trash your trash just by itself. So don't need to talk about all Leave No Trace, all things all the time. You can be really specific about your messaging, and I think you'll find that you actually draw more people in that way rather than listing all 7 principles out with all their bullet points everywhere you are. The last implementation strategy is really weaving all of these turnkey resources into the spaces where you interact with visitors and guests. We've been talking about digital spaces, we've been talking about physical spaces. It's important to understand what the visitor traveler arc is that we've all gone through. We've all been visitors or travelers somewhere before, even if we work in the industry that welcomes them as well. So from registration to arrival to the on-site experience that we have, whether it's a few hours or a few days, and then ultimately we depart. So where along this continuum for visitors spending time in New Hampshire can you reach them with this responsible recreation, leave no trace messaging through the lens of New Hampshire? Turns out you can reach them a lot of places. Registration's a no-brainer. Registration and pre-arrival are all that great digital space. When somebody signs up or makes a reservation through you or seeks you out, you're probably collecting contact information. Utilize that contact information in a meaningful way to start telling your organization's story about why it's important to practice Leave No Trace in New Hampshire and link it back to the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative. Then when people arrive, you have the staff welcome, you're finally getting those human-to-human interactions. There might be daily education opportunities, even if you're not an education organization. There are ways that you can help educate people, and that professional development course that I mentioned before has some really great interactive scenarios that will walk you through, whether you're a hotelier or a retailer or a restaurant, brewery, winery, how can daily education take place even if you don't consider yourself to be an educator in the formal sense? Staff interactions with visitors, certainly the signage that everybody sees, all of those things make a difference. You don't have to do a lot of Leave No Trace educating. The power in all of this are the small little touch points that are seen frequently and consistently. And then at some point, we conclude the visitor experience and guests and visitors depart. Now, when guests and visitors depart, we all know that we're not deleting their contact information. We know we want to keep them in our system. We want to keep telling our story to them because one of your best customers is a return customer. So what are those touch point communications that you have with return visitors who might bring more people with them? And the power behind that is that a return visitor who had a really great experience with you and learned about the Visit New Hampshire recommendations and practices from your business or organization is going to start putting you into a category of, oh, that's a sustainable business. That was something that really made a difference to me. And so when I bring other people back with me, not only do I as a visitor now have a foundation for it based on my last trip, I know that my friends and family who are coming with are going to get a really great experience from that front desk staff or from the bartender or from the information center staff who are just so great at connecting and making this a resource and a skill that anybody can put into practice. And turns out we did when we were on our hike. So just a glimpse at how you can engage people along the way with Leave No Trace. And there are a lot of opportunities that are nuanced and kind of micro into this, and I'm sure many of you are thinking about. So write those ideas down, talk about them with your team, and think about how you can implement those. I do want to share that beyond a toolkit, there's actually a really great event that's coming up. For anybody who's watching this recorded, the event I'm talking about is going to be happening September 15th and 19th, so happening really quickly this year in 2022. But at Diana's Baths, there's going to be this great multi-day Leave No Trace event. We call it a Leave No Trace hotspot. It's a program that the Leave No Trace organization has been running for many, many years that is on-site activation for places that have basically been loved to death. So Diana's Baths were nominated to be a hotspot location for this year, and were selected. And so the Leave No Trace organization has been working with land managers and conservation managers in that area. Visit New Hampshire has been a part of these conversations as well. But we'll have Leave No Trace staff that are on site at Diana's Baths from the 15th to the 19th. And there are a variety of workshops and things that are going to be taking place there. But definitely some opportunities for you all to get involved. There's a conservation mixer and trivia night that's happening on Friday, September 16th. Members of the Abenaki Nation are going to be sharing some history of Diana's baths from the indigenous perspective, which is also going to bring in really great perspective about stewardship and sustainability and responsibility from the cultural elements. So that's on Saturday, September 17th. And then on Sunday, September 18th is a stewardship service project in the afternoon that family friendly, anybody can be a part of. So if you're looking for a great reason to get back out to Diana's baths, I'd say this is the reason to do it. You can certainly learn more about this event on Leave No Trace's website, on Visit New Hampshire's website as well. So be sure to check it out. All right. Q&A. There are a few questions that have come through the chat. So I've thrown a lot at you so far. Talked about what this thing is, why it's important, what the toolkit is, what are some strategies that you can use. So if you've been holding on to a question or thinking about something, go ahead and populate it into the chat. And I'll definitely spend some time answering those. So let's see, Nina, you wrote, within the 7 principles, are there priorities to promote that specifically address current issues in New Hampshire, like the widening of trails? Is there any data about the most common Leave No Trace related issues in New Hampshire? Great question. The New Hampshire version of the Leave No Trace principles were actually created based on research and data that Leave No Trace did with Visit New Hampshire early on in our partnership. So we surveyed people from all across the state, residents from all across the state, and not just people in the outdoor and tourism and travel industry, to ask, what are the impacts that you're seeing? And then the Leave No Trace research team, we categorized all those answers and we churned it out, and we were able to identify kind of the big hit list for like, what are the big impacts that everybody's seeing, but then what are some of the regional impacts that they're seeing as well? Trail widening was definitely something that was on there. And trail widening, I should say, and this goes in general for the Visit New Hampshire Leave No Trace initiative. When we talk about trails, we're talking about certainly hiking trails, but we're also talking about motorized trails. We're also talking about snowmobile trails. This initiative and Leave No Trace in particular is not just limited to the non-motorized community. New Hampshire has a ever-growing and very popular motorized community that spends time recreating in the outdoors and does it responsibly. Just like every news story, there's always somebody in a group. There's always a hiker or a mountain biker or a camper or an ATVer that makes everybody else in that particular activity group look bad. But we gathered those voices in, we brought them in. And so trail widening is something that we address. And there's some really great recommendations, whether you're a motorized user or non-motorized user, around how you can reduce that from happening. Let's see. Kate wrote, are there principles of Leave No Trace and programs for New Hampshire beaches? We don't have specific language right now around beaches, but we certainly have things around rivers and waterways that would apply to that. But just like I mentioned, the toolkit is kind of this ever-expanding resource. The New Hampshire Leave No Trace messaging is also this expanding resource moving forward. So I think Kate, if you're looking for beaches specifically, that kind of goes beyond the water-based recreation messaging that's currently on there, definitely reach out to Visit New Hampshire so that those conversations can start to take place. We don't want to exclude any natural areas. We want to be as inclusive as possible. Let's see. Any other questions that you all have? Well, one thing I just want to encourage for everybody who's watching this is think about what your role can be for promoting responsible recreation and Leave No Trace to everybody that you engage with through your businesses, through your volunteer efforts, and personally, if you'd like as well. You have a big influence around all those people around you that you have a relationship with. So think about what your organization can do, how you can partner, utilize these great partner toolkit assets that are available, and keep brainstorming, keep thinking, oh, what might help us moving forward? What would be a great thing to add to this toolkit now that we've seen it? Visit New Hampshire and the advisory group that supports this effort is going to be doing a lot of collection over the next year and beyond to say, how can this thing continue to grow? And it's not a static program. It's meant to be dynamic. It's meant to grow. It's meant to take shape. And it will do that through the lens and culture of New Hampshire. Chris, I'll turn it back over to you whenever you're ready.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate that. You really made it easy for people to understand and hopefully be able to start adapting these resources and utilizing them on their own in the very near future. And again, thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. As we mentioned, this will be on visitnh.gov very soon. So if you have colleagues or folks who couldn't attend, it will be on that same resource page that Andrew walked you through earlier. So again, thank you so much, and stay tuned for future information down the road. Thanks.